to go to the man of the hour right now. More people are scrutinizing any words that Arnon Mishkin comes up with. Arnon, of course, is the guy who runs our Fox News decision desk. He's a director. Guy's a genius. I want to get behind how you do it then, Arnon, and what makes you make a call on a state. Sometimes when we don't have nearly all the votes counted, in fact, in some cases, a little more than half, and you can make a call. In other states where it's 90 or 95%, you can't. So of these states, Wisconsin and Michigan, certainly in Wisconsin, where the White House is saying we want to recount, they might request the same out of Michigan. Is that warranted? Will that make a big difference from the numbers you see? You have not called either of these states for anyone, but they are close.
That's correct. Both Wisconsin and Michigan are close. In the case of Wisconsin, the Secretary of State's office has announced, or has announced that basically they've essentially finished the count, and Biden is ahead by 20,000 votes. That the Trump campaign is asking for a recount. Clearly, 20,000 votes is within the legal, within 1%, and that is a sufficient margin, sufficiently small margin that the losing candidate can demand a recount so long as the losing candidate pays for that recount. So the Trump campaign is entirely within its rights to demand this recount. We're discussing how we're going to handle this in terms of reporting out that fact. We understand from our friends at the AP that there have been roughly 30 recounts over the past few decades, and statewide recounts, and in none of those recounts has the margin changed by more than 0.1%. So, and in 2 of those recounts, by the way, were in Wisconsin. So the Trump campaign is entirely within their rights to demand a recount, but we're not certain that it will affect the outcome in this case. But that's for the state to certify, and we're talking with our decision desk to figure out how we're going to handle it and reporting it, and whether or not we want to call it in some way, given the apparent.
Do you guys argue? I mean, you say you want to talk with your decision desk. Well, you're the big cheese on that desk. Do you ever overrule?
Yes, I am the leader of the team.
So do you ever overrule the other guys and gals at the desk and just say, no?
No,
you don't. Is it a majority vote? How do you guys decide it?
It is not a majority vote. We all have to be unanimous in our.
Was Arizona one of those, Arnon? Because the White House is saying even now, we think they made a bad call. We see ourselves winning. Scott Walker is going to be on our show a little bit later, saying that he still thinks Arizona's in the president's column. You've obviously decided otherwise, right?
Arizona was a state that we thought very clearly from quite early on was clearly going into Biden's column. We held off for a while until we finally called it. Arizona is a different behaving state than the others this year, because in Arizona, it's almost all mail votes. In most states, it's sort of a large chunk of mail votes and a large chunk of in-person election day votes. And those in-person election day votes differ dramatically from the mail-in votes this year. Early votes this year were basically going by 25 points for Biden. This is national numbers.
Right.
And election day votes were going by 25 points for Trump. We never see that sort of divergence. In the case of Arizona, all mail-in votes were roughly similar. I've heard some commentary on the internet and others that say, well, these are the late responding voters and they're going to tilt Trump. But it's nowhere near going to be as dramatic as Trump would need in order to overtake Biden's current lead. And so we're very confident in our call, and we remain confident, and we have not changed the call. But right now, but Arizona is in Biden's column.
All right. Pennsylvania, I think 65, close to 70% of the votes in. The president has a sizable lead there. Is it your thinking that the votes still to come could throw that into question? That there's so many Biden votes out there that even that 8-point gap now could be erased? Yes.
I mean, it's enough to be uncertain about how Pennsylvania will go. I mean, as I said, what is remaining is a large chunk of the early or mail-in vote in Pennsylvania. And as I said, that early mail-in vote can differ by, Biden is likely to win that by 25 points, where he sort of loses that by 25 points in the election day in-person vote. And so Unlike most elections, where if you see someone with 75% of the vote in and a lead of, say, 8 points, you realize there's no way the person can the number 2 can catch. In this particular case, the remaining votes often have no comparison with what the existing votes are, and that's why this election becomes so uncertain. That's what's so different about this election.
Any states you think you'll be comfortable making a call in the next day?
Oh, I think that several of I don't think Pennsylvania is likely to be to get to mature, if you will. I think North Carolina could easily mature in the next day or so. North Carolina is a state that clearly Trump has a lead in, and is, you know, I'd rather be Donald Trump in North Carolina than Joe Biden for certain. Georgia, I don't know who I'd rather be. It's a race that gets very close, but it could also in the next 24, 48 hours get enough vote to mature. In Michigan, Michigan and Nevada and Wisconsin as well. Well, Wisconsin is a different animal at the 20,000, but in Michigan and Nevada, I think that we could easily be in a position to make a call potentially in the next 24 to 48 hours. In Michigan and Nevada, I'd prefer to be Joe Biden. In North Carolina, I'd prefer to be Donald Trump. But, you know, that doesn't necessarily mean I'm not calling it. I'm merely saying that the team is sort of senses that that's the direction it's going in.
All right, well, if your team decides leaving North Carolina out of it, and if Joe Biden were declared the winner in Michigan and Nevada and Wisconsin, he's there. He's at 270.
That's correct.
So
that is right.
When you know a call that you're going to make would have that impact on it, you know very well to call all 3 states for Joe Biden, those 3 that I mentioned, Michigan with its 16 electoral votes, Wisconsin with its 10, even with the recount going on, so you might be limited what you can say or do there. By the way, would you make a call even in the middle of a recount?
I think that we need to, we have always said that this year we're going to err on the side of caution, which we frankly always do, and on the side of transparency. So to err on the side of caution and transparency is to let people know this race is very close. There is a recount. The distance right now between the 2 candidates is 20,000 votes. The history suggests, you know, what the potential to change that is. And to sort of let people know what we know. I think that's our job as reporters. That's our job as
so it sounds to me like you would make a call like that. You know the pressure.
You're like trying to not, and what I'm saying is the team is discussing it, but we're discussing. I mean, it's the goal is transparency and caution. We do not want to run ahead of the news. And at the same time, we don't want to run ahead of the.
So you're kind of copping out there and saying it's you guys gather around the desk and decide, pretty much, right? I'm just joking.
I'm saying we're really trying to inform the public.
I understand.
As best we can.
You know, back to my original point, I'll let you go on, and I appreciate this. Again, knowing full well that if you declare Michigan and Wisconsin and Nevada for Joe Biden, he, on paper, is the next president of the United States. Does that give you any pause? You know the enormity of that decision. A lot of these guys follow you for good reason. You're very good at what you do.
Well, the team is very strong.
Do you feel that that puts added pressure on you because you're not just bringing a candidate closer to 270? In that event, he's at it. He's the next president.
Without question, you think about this. I mean, look, the goal of the decision team in making any decisions is not to make wrong decisions. You know, it is not to sort of push the story faster than it goes, and it's absolutely. So in all cases, we are extremely cautious, and we need to be totally confident in making those calls. And obviously, when the stakes are as high as this is, there are. But remember, we're not the guys who make the president. The voters selected the president. The states certify the votes. The states send the electors to vote for the Electoral College. And our job is to report what we're seeing and observe that process and report on that process.
But you would hold back if you had any level of uncertainty, right? And the recount
Absolutely.
is one thing going on in Wisconsin, could happen in Michigan. You got to put blinders onto that, though, right?
Well, we got to put the focus on it too. It's not blinders. I mean, we have to tell people what we think is going on and where appropriate to provide the right caveats.
Are you going to make an announcement today on any state?
Stay tuned to Fox Business and Fox News.
No, you got the order right, so that's a good move. Arnon, seriously, very good chatting with you here. I'm just messing with you. But Arnon Mishkin, Fox News Decision Desk Director, there is a science to this. These guys are geniuses. It's like, you know, they're all gathered around a desk and they're trading algorithms. It's pretty intense stuff.